All right, so scaling the drawing, you may have noticed I have this 30-foot measurement line. However, we don't really need 30 feet right now because, well, if I was making a 1 to 30, sure. Now I would set this line to 1 inch, and now it's a drawing at 1 to 30 scale. So as you can imagine, you can do this with any scale, right? If you need a 1 to 13, which isn't a true scale, by the way, you could, right? You could have a 1 to 13 drawing if you really wanted one. However, in our case, the best thing to do is just to make a measurement that you need. So of course we have enchanted rock here. I'm going to make a measurement. So in my case, this little terrible ruler that you see here. And typically by default it is in meters, so do make sure that you'd be surprised how many students go, well, it said 8 meters, and I'm like, that's not the same as 8 feet. And they seriously thought it was the same. I once had a student ask me, what did we use before Google Maps? And I was like, maps. And you never heard of a map before. It's quite strange. Anyway, so in my case, I want to get 8 feet. So I might have to zoom in a little bit. And I do want this to be as horizontal as possible, just because that's going to make that alignment a little bit easier. But as you can see, going down, and 8 feet. Once I have that, it'll actually give me an elevation view. So if you ever don't have your topography, say your studio professor didn't give you the topography, that's no excuse to not know what the topography is. You go to Google Earth, you draw a line across your entire site, and you go, whoa, it's going down this way, or it's going down that way, or oh, it's actually a hill. Those kinds of things. So already useful right there. However, don't click X because it'll go away. Hit done and save it, then hit X. Oh, and then it'll still go away. You have to save it to the project, right? Now this is only with the browser version. If you have the, there's a regular app download, and I would definitely encourage that too. It's a little easier, and yes, it is free, but make sure you save it to the project. That way it'll actually stay there. In my case, now I can exit this and it will stay there. Now, this is where I want the complete proportion of what I want to eventually print out. If I know that I need to print out all of this, we know we're gonna have a really big piece of paper, right? Especially if that were the case. I don't think it's the case. I think you guys probably just need to make floor plans. But if you need the road, you need the road. If some of you guys are drawing the approach from the road to from the parking to your building, you want to see this in your first floor plan. I don't know who needs to hear it. I know I've said it to a couple, but you need to show the approach to this building. You need to show how you go from parking to outside of your car to walking towards this building and then actually experiencing your building, right? Not to get too much into the thick of it. One thing to notice about Google Earth is very often it goes back into kind of a isometric view. Make sure you hold shift and make sure that it's a completely flat version of what you want to take. In my case, really here, all we got to do is take a screenshot. On the Mac, it's Command, Shift, and the number 4. On a Windows computer, there's typically a print screen button, right? So I'm going to get a majority, but I want to make sure that I have my measurement within this shot. That is probably the only key information there. That's looking pretty good. Takes a screenshot. In my case, I'm going to show you how to do it on Rhino first. Keep in mind that our Studio Lab has all Rhino, right? And even if you've never used Rhino before, possibly the easiest thing still to do in Rhino is just simply scale a drawing. So in my case, I want to check my units first. I'm going to literally type in units, enter. I'm going to make sure by default it's in millimeters, so I'm going to switch it to inches. No, I'm just kidding. Feet. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Feet. In my case, I'm going to switch it to feet and inches just because decimals kind of get weird. Next thing I'm going to do is type in picture, find that picture, so there's my screenshot, and basically put the picture in the folder. Now at any size, we don't really know what scale it is, but if I click, I type in line, enter, and I draw an 8-foot line. 8 foot, enter. Right? Now I've got an 8-foot line. This is a true scale line. I mean, 8 feet is 8 feet there, right? But now I can essentially take this and align those two. Not to get too much into the thick of it, but just in case you can't see your line or it's kind of hard to see, we can take this image. Oop. We can go to properties, this little color wheel. We can go to the little paint to, which is material, and we can add some transparency. Again, this is all recorded just in case you need to pause, look at what I clicked on, and do it yourself. Keep in mind, I do go pretty fast because I don't want this to be an hour recording for something so short. But that's a lot easier to see. And as you can see, this image has got to get a lot bigger. However, fake it till you make it. So we'll take this piece, we'll scale it. So I'll type in scale, enter. it's going to ask for a base point. My base point is where these two lines meet. That is my base point. Once I click, it's going to say, okay, cool. Where's the reference point? The reference point is the other side of my image, not the other side of the 8-foot pole, right? Or the 8-foot line that we need. In my case, I'm going to select the other side, click, and then it's going to be like, where do you want it? Where do you want this 8-foot Google image measurement to match an 8-foot Rhino measurement? So in my case, I'm literally just going to move it up and go boop, right? And now the 8-foot line is the same as an 8-foot line in the Google image, right? So now this is absolutely true scale. I can draw a rectangle, so I can type in REC for rectangle and quite literally go, well, I just need this part. And I can trim it right off. I can select everything, TRIM for trim, and of course get rid of anything I don't need. From here, I'd print it. So Command P or File, Print. You'll notice by default, you'll have it like a Rhino PDF, and you can actually control the size of the paper, right? This is definitely where you might find out like, whoa, I'm gonna need something bigger than 11 by 17. And the reason I'm even saying this is so that you could potentially print it out, right, upstairs or at Office Depot or at ARC on Broadway, where they print a lot of SAC student stuff for free. You could totally write that down, right? Because we have a lot of SAC alumni and UTSA alumni there, and very often if you need a large print quickly, the day of, sometimes our printers aren't working. I'm not gonna lie to you. We don't have the greatest IT system, right, in terms of payments and GoPrint. If you've struggled with it before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. However, ARC on Broadway, down the street, literally a 3-minute drive for free. Anyway, just putting it out there. But in our case, we need to make that PDF, and I need to make it to true scale. So you'll notice if I do this window, or if I do the extents, or I can change the scale actually right here. So for instance, we know that it's in feet, so I can switch this actually to feet, right? And we can get 1 foot on the paper equals a certain amount of feet, right? So in the model, we'll do 1 foot essentially equals 8 feet on the paper. Oop, sorry, 1 inch, sorry, so many inches. On the paper, 1 inch to 8 feet. And voila, we have this scale drawing, right? Simply because it's 1-to-1, and now we can scale it to whatever we want. Say I need, let's face it, for y'all's project you just need 1/8, but some studio professors are like, I need a 1-to-20, I need a 1/8, I need a 1/32, I need a 3/32, and that's a lot of stuff. But you can do it all in one place on Rhino. So again, hopefully helpful. Once I was done, I'd press print. Now keep in mind, it also shows that this whole thing doesn't quite fit on 11 by 17, did it? Right? So there is that. I may want to increase my paper size to say an ARC D, which is a 24 by 36, ARC E, which is a 36 by 42, and so on and so forth. Eventually you'll memorize these things. But we can save it as a PDF, in my case, a test PDF, and we'll save it to my desktop. And this would be the file that I either take to the printer or to my print shop to get it printed out. In my case, I got some PDF documents, and voila, right? As you can see, I couldn't quite fit the entire thing, but now, I don't know, maybe I just needed the building at 1/8 scale. Now I can print it out, and it is 1/8 scale. I didn't have to do all that work. I don't have to take a single image and make it larger or smaller or anything like that. I essentially did that digitally. Last but not least, my portfolio from Texas Tech. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know why that opened, but not for the recording, maybe after the recording. But in our case, real quickly, the Illustrator arguably is even easier, right? I mean, we're setting up arguably the exact same things. So in my case, I'm going to start with File, New, and we already have that screenshot. But for instance, we just found out it doesn't fit on 11 by 17. So I'm going to go with a 24 by 36, so 36 and 24 inch height. I'm going to leave it in landscape, and I want 5 of them. No, I'm just kidding. I just want 1. But I could get 5 of them if I wanted to. In my case, I'm going to create. Of course, it's going to produce that blank image, and let's make it a little smaller so you can see all the tools. Sweet. One of the first tools and greatest tools of all time of Illustrator is Command R or Control R if you're in Windows. And it brings up this wonderful little ruler. That's great because we need to make something equal an inch on this true scale paper. Now what's great, in Illustrator we're starting with the paper, not the image, right? I guess that is where it differs. In our case, I'll go to File, place. I don't know why it's place ... but the suspense is still killing me. So we'll go to downloads. In my case, screenshots are saved in a particular folder because I don't like them putting on my desktop. Let's face it, I screenshot some questionable things sometimes. So as you can see, it's pretty small. I think that got in there. Why are you so little? It's adorable. Whoa. Okay, there we go. Well, as you can see, it came in really small for some reason, but not a big deal. I would also want to verify that I'm in inches, because something tells me coming in that small, maybe I've got the wrong unit size. So I'm going to right click and go, okay, it's in inches, we're good, right? I can right click anytime. In my case, I can also click inside this ruler and drag it out, and you'll notice that it creates a grid line. If I hold shift, it makes a very straight grid line. So I can set something, say like 20 inches grid line and make a 21 inch. That would give me a perfect inch on the paper, right? In my case, I think I've actually got 2 inches, so let's try that again. And there we go. Now I take my image and I size it as necessary. In my case, a little bit more manual work going on, but I need to make this little yellow line now equal 8, right? Or an inch, right? In my case, I'm a little off on the inch side, so let's move that. There's the inch right there. And again, you can hold shift to make that a little bit more accurate. We'll take that image and basically just scale it up. I'll hold shift because if I don't, oh my God, there goes the scale. So again, to stay proportional, we want to hold shift and of course align it as necessary. Dang, I never get that on the first try, but I pretty much nailed that. Anyway. Now we can see how much it's going to fit on a 24 by 36. Now that it's to scale, I can move this wherever I want. So for instance, maybe I just get a little bit of the streets. Keep in mind this is a 24 by 36, pretty big piece of paper, which is why I said question mark when you told me that you want 1/8 scale floor plans. I don't know, I probably would have left that at 1/16, but that's just me. In our case, you could also trim it like we did. So I'll get a rectangle tool, I'll put it over my piece. Go back to selection tool, I'll highlight both, right click, and make clipping mask. Once I do that, it's a little bit more formidable and we see what that 24 by 36 looks like. File, save as, PDF, and we're good to go. That's about it. So, just to recap, we got our Google image shot. We made a measurement, 8 feet, because we're at 1/8 scale. But if I needed a 1/32 scale, what would I do? I'd get 32 feet, because 32 feet are now equaling an inch, right? What if I needed a 1:100? I'd make a 100-foot measurement and make that equal an inch, right? So again, hopefully helpful. We make that measurement, we take a screenshot, or we produce the image however we need. We can take it into Rhino and we can scale it, right, and print it out. Or we can take it into Illustrator, paper first, and scale it up. So anyway, this has been my TED Talk of scaling images and sites for today. Any major questions, or anybody want me to recap on something that they kind of missed or seemed like a little too fast? Fair enough? I'll leave it at that.